Chapter 1. Early Life and Family Background. Donald Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in Queens, New York City, to Fred Trump and Mary McLeod Trump. He was the fourth of 5 children in the family. His siblings were Mary Ann, Fred Jr., Elizabeth, and Robert. His father, Fred Trump, was a successful real estate developer. He built many middle-class apartment buildings in Brooklyn and Queens, New York. Fred Trump was very focused on making money, and he passed his work ethic and ambition to his children. Fred's company, the Trump Organization, made millions of dollars, and Donald was surrounded by wealth and privilege from a young age. Donald's mother, Mary McLeod, was born in Scotland. She immigrated to the United States in 1930, where she met Fred Trump. Donald was very close to his mother and often spoke about her influence on his life. Growing up, Donald lived in a large house in Queens, a borough of New York City. The family was wealthy, but Donald's father was strict and demanding. Fred expected his children to work hard and succeed. Donald was often disciplined, which led to tension between him and his father. Despite these tensions, Fred's guidance played a significant role in Donald's success later in life. From a young age, Donald showed an interest in business, but he was not always a model student. He was sent to the New York Military Academy when he was 13 years old. This was a private military school where he learned discipline and leadership. Donald later said that the academy helped him develop confidence and taught him important skills for success. Donald did well in school and was known for being competitive and energetic. He enjoyed playing sports, especially baseball, and often worked on leadership roles in school clubs. However, his time at the academy was also challenging because he had a difficult relationship with some of the other students. After high school, Donald attended Fordham University in New York for 2 years. He then transferred to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the best business schools in the country. Donald earned a degree in economics in 1968. While at Wharton, he learned about real estate, finance, and business management. Donald's time at college was influential because it prepared him for his future career in real estate. He was also determined to make his own way, separate from his father's business, even though his father's success in real estate was always in the background. After graduation, Donald decided to join his father's company, the Trump Organization, which was based in Queens. He quickly became involved in the family's real estate projects and began to work on the development of residential buildings. However, Donald wanted to expand beyond Queens and Brooklyn and make a name for himself in Manhattan, which was the heart of New York City's real estate market. Fred Trump helped his son, but it was clear that Donald had his own ideas about how to run the business. He wanted to build high-profile projects and attract attention. Donald's ambition and drive led him to move from his father's smaller projects to larger and more expensive ones. His goal was to make Trump a well-known name in Manhattan real estate. In the early years, Donald took bold steps to secure financing and manage the projects. While his father helped with some of the funding, Donald's ability to secure his own investments and handle complex business deals showed his entrepreneurial spirit. This was the beginning of Donald Trump's career as a businessman and real estate developer, but it would also mark the start of a public life that would take him in many different directions, towards wealth, fame, and eventually, the presidency of the United States. Chapter 2. Beginning his career in real estate. After graduating from the Wharton School in 1968, Donald Trump made the decision to join his father's company, the Trump Organization. At the time, his father, Fred Trump, was already well established in the real estate business, primarily focusing on building middle-class apartment complexes in the outer boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens. However, Donald wanted more. He had bigger dreams and was determined to make his mark in the heart of New York City, Manhattan. In the early 1970s, Donald convinced his father to allow him to take on more prominent projects in Manhattan. The young businessman's ambition and drive set him apart from his father's more traditional approach. While Fred had been successful with residential buildings in the outer boroughs, Donald envisioned a future in Manhattan, where high-rise luxury buildings would attract wealthy tenants and boost the Trump name. One of Donald's first big moves was the purchase of the Commodore Hotel in Manhattan in 1974. The hotel was struggling financially, and its location wasn't as appealing as some other properties in the area. However, Donald saw its potential. He negotiated a deal that allowed him to buy the hotel with the help of government loans, which was a rare move for someone so young. Donald also convinced Hyatt Hotels to take over the management of the property. After extensive renovations, the Commodore Hotel was transformed into the Grand Hyatt Hotel, a luxury hotel with modern amenities that became a popular spot for business travelers and tourists. This project marked the beginning of Donald Trump's public persona. The success of the Grand Hyatt helped establish him as a bold and ambitious developer, willing to take risks to achieve big rewards. It also demonstrated his ability to secure financing for large projects, something that would become a key part of his business strategy throughout his career. By the 1980s, Donald's reputation in the real estate world was growing, and he had his sights set on creating something truly iconic. He wanted to build a skyscraper that would symbolize the power and luxury associated with his name. That project was Trump Tower, which opened in 1983. Trump Tower was a high-rise office building and residential complex located on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, one of the most famous streets in the city. What made Trump Tower unique was its luxurious features, including a massive atrium with a waterfall, expensive marble floors, and top-tier shops. The building was designed to attract high-net-worth individuals who wanted to live and work in the center of New York City. Donald Trump's investment in Trump Tower paid off. The tower quickly became a prestigious address, with famous tenants such as Ivana Trump, his then-wife, living in the building. It helped solidify Trump's reputation as a developer who could build grand, high-profile buildings in one of the most competitive real estate markets in the world. After the success of Trump Tower, Donald Trump continued to expand his real estate empire. His company acquired several key properties in Manhattan, including the Plaza Hotel in 1988. The Plaza was one of the most famous hotels in the world, and purchasing it was a major achievement. However, the purchase was not without controversy. Donald used a lot of borrowed money to finance the deal, and the heavy debt would become a challenge in later years. Throughout the 1980s, Donald's real estate empire grew to include luxury residential buildings, casinos, and golf courses. He also began to focus on commercial properties, including office buildings and shopping centers, which helped diversify his portfolio and attract high-paying tenants. While Donald Trump's business ventures were succeeding, they were also marked by controversy. His aggressive business tactics and willingness to take on large debts made him a polarizing figure. However, his ability to secure financing and create iconic buildings made him a prominent name in the world of real estate. By the early 1990s, Donald faced financial difficulties. His businesses were burdened by large debts, especially after the purchase of the Plaza Hotel and the building of Trump Taj Mahal, a casino in Atlantic City. The casino was not as successful as he had hoped, and the debt from these ventures nearly led to bankruptcy. However, Trump was able to avoid bankruptcy by negotiating with his creditors and restructuring his debts. This ability to bounce back from financial setbacks became a hallmark of his career. His resilience and willingness to continue taking risks despite financial challenges helped him recover and expand his business empire. Chapter 3: Expanding his empire. As Donald Trump's reputation grew in the 1980s, he began to expand his real estate empire beyond Manhattan. With Trump Tower and the Grand Hyatt under his belt, he set his sights on acquiring more properties and diversifying his business ventures. Donald's goal was clear: to create a global brand that would be synonymous with luxury, wealth, and success. In 1988, one of the most high-profile acquisitions of Donald Trump's career came when he purchased the Plaza Hotel in New York City. The Plaza was one of the most prestigious hotels in the world, located at Fifth Avenue and Central Park South. Trump paid $407 million for the Plaza Hotel, a price much higher than most people expected. While it was an impressive acquisition, the deal came with challenges. Trump financed much of the purchase with borrowed money, which added significant debt to his already growing empire. Despite these financial pressures, Donald pushed forward, believing the Plaza's luxury status would make it a valuable asset. Unfortunately, his time with the Plaza Hotel was marked by conflict. Trump faced difficulties in managing the hotel and the debts surrounding it. He had to restructure his loans and ultimately sold his stake in the Plaza to recover financially. This experience showed that even the most high-profile acquisitions could present risks. In 1990, Trump expanded into the casino industry with the opening of the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The casino was a massive investment, costing over $1 billion to build. The Taj Mahal was billed as one of the world's largest and most luxurious casinos, with a Mughal architectural theme and a lavish interior. Trump hoped the Taj Mahal would be a game-changer in the casino industry, drawing millions of visitors and making him one of the wealthiest businessmen in the United States. However, the opening was marred by financial difficulties. The casino struggled to attract enough customers to cover its massive debts. Trump's heavy borrowing for the project led to financial difficulties, and the casino was soon struggling to stay afloat. Despite the early setbacks, Trump's company eventually took control of the casino, restructuring the debt. This was a significant moment in his career, demonstrating his ability to manage complex financial situations and recover from setbacks. However, the Trump Taj Mahal ultimately faced long-term challenges, leading to its eventual bankruptcy filing in 2004. While the Trump Taj Mahal faced challenges, Donald Trump continued to diversify his business ventures. He expanded into the luxury golf course business, focusing on creating exclusive, high-end golf resorts. He acquired several golf courses in the US and abroad, including properties in Scotland, Ireland, and Dubai. One of Trump's most well-known golf resorts is the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, which opened in 2004. Trump's focus on golf courses and resorts helped cement his image as a luxury brand, attracting wealthy clients and famous personalities. In the 1990s and 2000s, Donald Trump began focusing not only on owning real estate but also on building a global brand. He licensed the Trump name to various products, including hotels, casinos, and even clothing lines. The Trump name became a symbol of wealth and success, and people around the world wanted to associate with it. Donald Trump's licensing deals allowed him to make money without always having to directly own the properties. For example, the Trump International Hotel in Chicago, which opened in 2008, was developed by other companies but bore Trump's name. This helped Donald expand his empire internationally, even in places like Canada, Panama, and India. Despite his expanding empire, Donald Trump's ventures were not always financially smooth. The early 1990s saw Trump's businesses hit by a series of financial difficulties. He had borrowed heavily to finance many of his projects, and several were underperforming. In the early 1990s, Trump faced serious financial issues, including defaults on loans for his casino properties, which led to renegotiations with creditors. His companies were on the brink of bankruptcy, and many analysts wondered if Trump could survive. However, Trump was known for his resilience. He restructured his debts through negotiations and refinanced his loans, avoiding bankruptcy. Over the next decade, he was able to stabilize his business empire, using his celebrity status and personal brand to attract new investors and make deals that would help him recover. As the 1990s ended and the 2000s began, Trump's empire was not only limited to real estate but expanded into various media projects. He became a fixture on television, most famously as the host of The Apprentice, a reality show where contestants competed for a job in the Trump organization. The success of the show boosted his public profile, making him a household name. Trump also used his fame to build relationships with celebrities, political figures, and other influential people. His brand became associated with power, luxury, and success, which further expanded his business opportunities. Chapter 4: Entering the World of Media. By the late 1990s, Donald Trump had already made a name for himself in real estate, casinos, and luxury developments. However, his ambitions extended far beyond the real estate industry. Trump recognized the power of media as a tool to build his brand and increase his visibility. His entrance into the media world was not a coincidence. It was part of a calculated effort to solidify his status as an international celebrity and influential businessman. In 2004, Donald Trump made his move into television with the reality show The Apprentice. The concept was simple. A group of contestants competed in business-related challenges for a chance to work with Trump in the Trump Organization. Each week, Trump would fire one contestant with his famous catchphrase, "You're fired." This line quickly became iconic, and the show attracted millions of viewers, making Trump a household name across the United States. The success of The Apprentice marked a turning point in Trump's career. It catapulted him into the world of television, giving him widespread public recognition and transforming him from a successful businessman into a media mogul. The show aired for over a decade, running for 14 seasons, and was a hit in both the United States and internationally. Trump's popularity soared, and his personal brand became synonymous with business success, power, and prestige. The success of The Apprentice wasn't just about ratings, it was also about shaping Trump's public image. Through the show, viewers saw him as a strong, decisive leader. His role on the show positioned him as an authority figure in the business world, which played a crucial role in shaping the way people viewed him in later years. The Apprentice made Trump a cultural figure, bringing him into the homes of millions of viewers each week. While The Apprentice was a major success, Donald Trump did not limit his media presence to television. He was an active figure in the public eye, frequently appearing on talk shows, news programs, and interviews. His media strategy was built on his larger-than-life persona: brash, confident, and often controversial. Trump used his presence in the media to promote his businesses, reinforce his status as a successful entrepreneur, and attract attention to his political views. Whether he was being interviewed by major news outlets or appearing on Larry King Live or The View, Trump always made headlines, often with bold and provocative statements that kept him in the news cycle. His media presence extended to other platforms as well, including books, radio shows, and social media. In 1987, he released his first book, The Art of the Deal, which became a bestseller and helped reinforce his image as a savvy businessman. The book offered readers a glimpse into his personal philosophy on business, wealth, and success. Trump also made regular appearances in magazines and newspapers, where he discussed everything from his latest business deals to his views on politics. These media appearances allowed him to further shape his image, cementing his reputation as a brash, successful businessman with a larger-than-life personality. One of the most significant ways Trump revolutionized his media presence was through the rise of social media, particularly Twitter. Donald Trump's use of Twitter began in 2009, and he quickly became one of the platform's most prominent and controversial figures. With over 88 million followers, Trump used Twitter to directly communicate with his supporters and critics, bypassing traditional media outlets. Trump's tweets were often provocative and filled with bold statements, insults, and political commentary. His unfiltered approach to communication became a trademark of his political career, particularly during his run for president in 2016. Twitter allowed Trump to engage with the public in a way that was not possible for traditional politicians, and it became a key tool in his branding and media strategy. His use of Twitter during the 2016 election campaign was especially significant. Trump's tweets generated constant media coverage and helped shape the political discourse. His messages were often short and to the point, reflecting his no-nonsense persona, which resonated with many Americans who felt disconnected from traditional politicians. Trump's ability to control the narrative through Twitter played a significant role in his eventual success in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. After leaving office in 2021, Donald Trump continued to build his media empire through a new company, Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG. The company was launched with the aim of creating an alternative to mainstream media and social platforms that Trump and his supporters viewed as biased. TMTG's flagship product was a social media platform called Truth Social, which Trump launched in 2022. Truth Social was marketed as a platform where conservative voices could be heard without fear of censorship. The platform allowed Trump to continue communicating with his supporters directly and was part of his ongoing efforts to control the narrative and promote his political agenda. Though Truth Social has faced challenges, including a slow user adoption rate and technical difficulties, it represents Trump's continued focus on the media landscape. Trump's move into the media and technology space has been driven by his desire to remain influential in the political and social spheres, using his brand to build new platforms that can rival traditional media networks. Trump's media strategy was not just about building his business empire, it was also about building political influence. As his media presence grew, so did his political visibility. His outspoken views on issues such as immigration, foreign policy, and trade gained significant attention and helped shape his political base. In 2015, when Trump announced his candidacy for president, his media presence played a crucial role in his success. Throughout his campaign, Trump dominated the news cycle, with his comments and tweets often overshadowing those of his opponents. His use of media was instrumental in driving his political rise, allowing him to appeal to a broad swath of the American public who felt disconnected from the political establishment. Trump's ability to navigate the media landscape and use it to his advantage was one of the key factors that helped him win the 2016 U.S. presidential election. His mastery of media, combined with his branding as a successful businessman and outsider candidate, allowed him to secure a victory against a seasoned politician like Hillary Clinton. Chapter 5: Political Ambitions and the Road to the Presidency. Donald Trump's political ambitions were a central aspect of his life from an early age. Although he was known primarily for his business ventures and media presence, Trump harbored aspirations to enter the world of politics for many years. It wasn't until 2015, however, that he took the bold step to officially enter the political arena and begin his campaign for the presidency of the United States. Trump's political views and involvement in politics were not entirely new when he announced his presidential candidacy in 2015. For many years, he had been publicly expressing opinions on political matters, such as taxation, international trade, and U.S. foreign policy. Though he was mostly focused on his business ventures, Trump was known to have contributed to various political campaigns over the years. He was also friendly with several influential political figures, including both Democrats and Republicans. Despite being a registered Democrat for much of his life, Trump began identifying more with the Republican Party in the 2000s. He was known for his outspoken opinions on key issues, such as immigration and the economy. His interest in running for office began to take shape when he became increasingly frustrated with what he saw as an ineffective political system in Washington, D.C. Trump's political views were often framed around his desire to make America great again, a slogan that would eventually become the central theme of his presidential campaign. He believed that American greatness was being undermined by weak leadership, poor trade deals, and uncontrolled immigration. Trump frequently criticized U.S. trade deals, such as NAFTA, and pushed for a tougher stance on issues like illegal immigration. Before his official entry into the 2016 race, Trump flirted with the idea of running for president in 2011. At the time, he made headlines with his public questioning of President Barack Obama's birthplace, claiming that Obama was not born in the U.S., a claim that was widely debunked. This birther controversy put Trump in the spotlight, and although he eventually decided not to run for president in 2012, it helped raise his profile among conservative voters and established his reputation as a challenger to the political establishment. Despite the controversy surrounding his 2011 presidential flirtation, Trump's 2016 campaign would eventually capitalize on the energy and dissatisfaction of many voters who felt that the political system was not serving their interests. Trump positioned himself as the ultimate outsider candidate, unafraid to challenge both the Republican and Democratic parties. In June 2015, Donald Trump made the announcement that would change his life forever. He was running for president of the United States. Trump declared his candidacy during a speech at Trump Tower in New York City. With a flair for drama, Trump entered the political stage with a message that immediately captured the attention of the American public. Trump's speech was blunt and to the point. He boldly criticized the Obama administration and the state of the nation, declaring, "The American dream is dead," but also pledging to restore the country's greatness. He promised to bring jobs back to the U.S., renegotiate bad trade deals, and secure the nation's borders. He also voiced concerns about illegal immigration, especially from Mexico, and called for the construction of a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico. Trump's "Make America Great Again" slogan quickly became iconic, encapsulating his vision of restoring America's former economic and global strength. His message resonated with many Americans who felt left behind by the political elite and were frustrated with job losses, economic inequality, and immigration issues. Trump's blunt, unfiltered style stood in stark contrast to typical politicians, and his rise in the polls was rapid. When Trump entered the Republican primary race, few believed he would be able to compete against more experienced politicians. The Republican Party had a crowded field of candidates, including seasoned politicians such as Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Rand Paul. Many pundits believed Trump's campaign was just a publicity stunt, but as the primaries progressed, it became clear that he was striking a chord with many Republican voters. Trump's appeal was simple: he was an outsider who promised to shake up the political system. He tapped into the anger and frustration of voters who felt the political establishment was out of touch with their needs. His brash rhetoric and ability to dominate media coverage helped him rise to the top of the polls, and his message resonated particularly with working-class Americans. Throughout the primaries, Trump's opponents struggled to land effective attacks against him. His controversial remarks on issues such as immigration, trade, and the media often overshadowed his competitors' campaigns. Trump's ability to control the media narrative and keep himself in the spotlight was a significant factor in his success. Despite facing criticism for his inflammatory remarks and controversial positions, Trump continued to gain support. He was able to build a loyal base of followers who were attracted to his directness and his promise to drain the swamp in Washington. Trump's rise to the top of the Republican Party was unprecedented, and he eventually secured the Republican nomination after defeating a wide range of rivals. After securing the Republican nomination, Trump faced off against Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, in one of the most highly anticipated and bitter presidential elections in U.S. history. The general election campaign was marked by sharp divisions between the two candidates, with Trump positioning himself as a populist outsider against Clinton, who represented the political establishment. Trump's campaign was a direct challenge to the political status quo. His speeches and rallies were filled with promises to create jobs, secure borders, and reduce government regulation. His blunt, unapologetic style appealed to many working-class voters, while his confrontational approach alienated others, especially women and minorities. Trump's ability to generate media coverage played a significant role in his success during the election. His social media presence, particularly on Twitter, helped him bypass traditional media channels and directly communicate with his supporters. He also tapped into growing frustration with issues such as immigration, trade, and the loss of manufacturing jobs in key battleground states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. As the election unfolded, Trump's rhetoric became increasingly divisive. He faced criticism for his comments on women, minorities, and immigrants, and his comments on issues like race relations and national security sparked widespread debate. Despite this, Trump's populist appeal remained strong among a significant portion of the electorate, and his promise to return power to the people resonated with voters in the heartland of America. On November 8, 2016, after one of the most contentious elections in U.S. history, Donald Trump defied the odds and defeated Hillary Clinton, securing the Electoral College and winning the presidency. While Clinton won the popular vote, Trump's victories in key battleground states allowed him to claim the presidency. Trump's victory shocked many in the political establishment, the media, and around the world. His win marked a significant shift in American politics, signaling a rejection of traditional politicians and an embrace of populism. Trump's victory was also a clear sign that many Americans were dissatisfied with the political elites and wanted change. Trump's path to the presidency was unconventional and filled with controversy, but his ability to connect with a significant portion of the electorate and use the media to his advantage helped him become the 45th President of the United States. Chapter 6. Presidency, 2017 to 2021. Donald Trump's presidency, which spanned from January 2017 to January 2021, was one of the most turbulent and controversial in modern U.S. history. His time in office was marked by significant political polarization, major policy shifts, and numerous challenges, both domestically and internationally. Trump's leadership style, characterized by bold statements, unconventional policies, and a focus on populism, left a lasting impact on the nation and the world. On January 20, 2017, Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. His inauguration was attended by a large crowd of supporters, though it was smaller than that of his predecessor, Barack Obama, which sparked controversy. Trump's inauguration speech set the tone for his presidency, with a central message of populism and nationalism. He declared, "We the citizens of America are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people." Trump's early days in office were marked by his focus on delivering on campaign promises, such as building a border wall between the US and Mexico, cutting taxes, and withdrawing from international agreements that he believed were detrimental to American interests. One of the first major actions of Trump's presidency was the Muslim ban, which restricted travel to the US from several predominantly Muslim countries. The executive order was highly controversial and faced legal challenges, but it became a significant part of Trump's stance on immigration and national security. Trump also prioritized tax reform during his first year in office. In December 2017, he signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which lowered corporate tax rates and offered tax cuts for individuals. The law was touted as a major win for businesses, but critics argued that it disproportionately benefited the wealthy and increased the federal deficit. Another key domestic policy area was immigration. Trump's administration implemented stricter immigration policies, including the separation of families at the US-Mexico border, which sparked outrage and led to protests. His administration also attempted to end the DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, program, which protected undocumented immigrants who arrived in the US as children, though the effort faced legal setbacks. Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic was one of the defining aspects of his presidency. The virus began to spread rapidly across the US in early 2020, and Trump faced criticism for his response. He downplayed the severity of the virus at first, but later implemented measures such as travel bans and worked with pharmaceutical companies to fast-track the development of vaccines. Despite these efforts, many Americans criticized his administration for a lack of leadership and coordination in handling the pandemic, which led to a surge in cases and deaths. Trump's foreign policy was heavily influenced by his America First mantra. He believed that the US should prioritize its own interests over those of other countries and sought to renegotiate or withdraw from international agreements that he deemed unfavorable to the US. One of the most significant actions taken by Trump was the US withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement in 2017. The agreement aimed to limit global warming by reducing carbon emissions, but Trump argued that it was too costly for American businesses and would hurt the US economy. This move was widely criticized by environmentalists and many world leaders, but it was celebrated by Trump's supporters, who saw it as a step toward reducing government regulation and promoting American industry. Another major foreign policy shift under Trump was his approach to NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Trump frequently criticized NATO allies for not meeting their defense spending commitments and suggested that the US might not come to their aid in the event of an attack unless they paid more. This stance alarmed many European leaders but resonated with Trump's base, who believed that America should not be shouldering the financial burden of defending other countries. Trump also made headlines with his approach to North Korea. In 2018, he became the first sitting US president to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in an attempt to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. While the meetings were historic, they did not result in significant progress on disarmament, and tensions with North Korea remained high throughout Trump's presidency. In contrast, Trump strengthened ties with Israel. One of his most notable moves was recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the US embassy there, a highly controversial decision that drew condemnation from many Arab and Muslim countries. Trump's America First policy also led to trade wars, most notably with China. In 2018, Trump imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods in an effort to address trade imbalances and intellectual property theft. This led to a tense trade war between the two countries, with both sides imposing tariffs on each other's products. The trade war resulted in disruptions to global supply chains and a slowdown in global economic growth. Trump's presidency was marred by multiple controversies and investigations. One of the most significant was the Russia investigation, led by special counsel Robert Mueller. The investigation examined whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia during the 2016 election. While Mueller's report did not conclude that Trump or his campaign directly colluded with Russia, it did find that the Trump campaign had numerous contacts with Russian officials and that Trump had obstructed justice on several occasions. The findings led to a national debate about Russian interference in the election and Trump's conduct in office. In December 2019, Trump became the third U.S. president in history to be impeached. The impeachment was based on allegations that he had abused his power by pressuring Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to launch an investigation into his political rival, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden. The House of Representatives passed articles of impeachment, but the Senate acquitted Trump in February 2020, and he remained in office. Trump's presidency also saw widespread protests and civil unrest, particularly following the killing of George Floyd in May 2020. The protests, which called for racial justice and police reform, were met with a heavy-handed response from law enforcement, including the use of military force to clear protesters from Lafayette Square near the White House. In 2020, Trump faced off against Joe Biden in a highly contentious presidential election. The election was conducted amid the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to an increase in mail-in voting. Trump repeatedly claimed, without evidence, that the election was rigged and that widespread voter fraud had occurred. These claims were dismissed by courts and election officials, but Trump's rhetoric stirred up significant division and unrest among his supporters. After the election, Trump refused to concede, and his supporters staged a violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, in an attempt to overturn the election results. The riot resulted in several deaths, injuries, and significant damage to the Capitol building. Trump was impeached a second time by the House of Representatives for inciting the insurrection, making him the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. He was later acquitted by the Senate. On January 20, 2021, Joe Biden was inaugurated as the 46th President of the United States, marking the end of Trump's presidency. Donald Trump's presidency was a time of unprecedented change and controversy in American politics. His leadership style, characterized by bold statements, social media use, and challenges to the political establishment, left a deep imprint on the nation. His policies, particularly on immigration, trade, and foreign affairs, reshaped U.S. interactions with the world. While Trump's presidency ended with deep divisions in the country and a contentious election result, his impact on American politics continues to be felt. His political base remains loyal, and his influence within the Republican Party is undeniable. The legacy of his time in office, marked by economic growth, tax cuts, and foreign policy shifts, as well as impeachment proceedings and protests, will continue to be the subject of debate for years to come. Chapter 7. Post-Presidency and Ongoing Influence. After leaving the White House on January 20, 2021, Donald Trump remained a significant figure in American politics, continuing to wield considerable influence within the Republican Party and among his loyal supporters. Despite losing the 2020 election to Joe Biden, Trump did not fade from the public eye. Instead, he used his post-presidency years to maintain a strong presence in the political landscape, assert his influence over the GOP, and signal a potential return to politics. Upon leaving office, Donald Trump faced significant challenges, including the aftermath of the January 6 Capitol insurrection, which had deeply divided the country. The event, which saw a mob of Trump supporters storm the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to overturn the election results, led to widespread condemnation and further investigation into Trump's role in inciting the violence. Despite this, Trump maintained his strong base of support, particularly among Republican voters. In the months following his departure from the White House, he largely stayed out of the spotlight, but rumors about his political future and potential 2024 presidential run began to circulate. During this time, Trump also faced multiple legal battles, including investigations into his business practices, but he continued to insist that he was the rightful winner of the 2020 election and promoted the idea that voter fraud had stolen the election from him. Trump's influence on the Republican Party remained undeniable after his presidency. While many prominent Republicans distanced themselves from him in the wake of the January 6 insurrection, the majority of the party continued to embrace his populist message and his America First agenda. Trump became a kingmaker within the GOP, endorsing candidates who shared his views and opposing those who did not. Trump's endorsement of candidates became a powerful tool. Many Republican candidates in the 2022 midterm elections sought his approval, as his backing could significantly boost their chances of winning. Trump's influence was especially apparent in GOP primaries, where candidates who aligned with his ideology often triumphed over more traditional Republican candidates. However, Trump's continued influence over the GOP was not without controversy. His divisive rhetoric, particularly on issues such as immigration, election fraud, and the 2020 election, kept tensions high within the party. While some Republicans praised his efforts to push for conservative policies, others, particularly those in more moderate or swing districts, expressed concern that his extreme rhetoric could alienate independent voters and hurt the party's chances in national elections. In addition to his political influence, Trump continued to maintain a presence in the media. After being banned from Twitter and Facebook following the January 6 Capitol riots, Trump sought alternative ways to communicate with his supporters. In October 2021, he launched his own social media platform, Truth Social, as part of his effort to bypass traditional media outlets and connect directly with his base. Truth Social was positioned as a platform for free speech, in opposition to what Trump and his supporters described as the big tech censorship of conservative voices. While the platform initially faced technical difficulties and struggled to attract a large user base, it represented Trump's ongoing efforts to maintain his influence over public discourse. In addition to Truth Social, Trump continued to give interviews, appear at rallies, and make public statements through a variety of other media outlets. He frequently criticized the Biden administration, accusing it of mishandling issues such as the withdrawal from Afghanistan and rising inflation. Through these media appearances, Trump continued to shape the national conversation and position himself as a powerful figure in American politics. Although Trump had a strong following, his post-presidency period was also marked by multiple legal challenges. Several investigations into his personal and business dealings began to gain momentum. One of the most high-profile investigations was related to his financial dealings, including allegations of tax fraud and business practices at the Trump Organization. In 2021, Trump faced a criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which sought to examine whether the Trump Organization had inflated asset values to secure loans or understated them to lower taxes. Trump denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the investigation as politically motivated. Additionally, Trump faced scrutiny over his actions during the 2020 election. In 2022, the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol began investigating the role Trump played in the events leading up to and following the Capitol riot. The committee examined whether Trump incited the attack, attempted to interfere with the election results, and whether he violated any laws in the process. Trump's legal issues continued to draw attention, and while many of the investigations remained ongoing, they added to the complexities of his post-presidency life. As the 2024 presidential election loomed, speculation about whether Donald Trump would run for office again continued to dominate headlines. In 2022, he began to hint at the possibility of a second presidential campaign, holding rallies, making speeches, and positioning himself as the Republican candidate who could make America great again. In November 2022, Trump officially announced that he would run for president in 2024, making him the first U.S. president to seek a second non-consecutive term. His announcement set off a wave of excitement among his supporters and prompted concerns among his critics. A second run would make him the most significant figure in the Republican primary, and many GOP leaders were forced to publicly respond to the possibility of a Trump candidacy. Trump's announcement was met with both support and resistance within the Republican Party. His loyal followers were eager for his return, believing that his leadership was needed to address the challenges facing the country. However, some within the party questioned whether his divisive rhetoric and controversial past would hurt the party's chances in a general election. Trump's 2024 bid was also influenced by the ongoing legal challenges he faced, as many of the investigations into his business dealings and the January 6 attack were still unresolved. Despite these challenges, Trump's political career remained a significant force in American politics. In the years following his presidency, Donald Trump continued to dominate national discussions and retained significant influence over American political discourse. His legacy as a polarizing figure remained strong, and his actions, policies, and public statements continued to shape the political landscape. For his supporters, Trump remained a champion of conservative values, a defender of the working class, and a leader who had fought against the political establishment. For his critics, he remained a figure of division, accused of promoting misinformation, undermining democratic institutions, and creating deep political polarization in the US. Regardless of public opinion, Trump's post-presidency influence was undeniable. His ability to command attention, shape political debates, and inspire both devotion and controversy was a testament to his lasting impact on American politics. Donald Trump's post-presidency years were marked by a continuation of his influence, legal challenges, media presence, and political ambitions. His involvement in the Republican Party, his efforts to maintain a platform for communication with his supporters, and his potential 2024 presidential run demonstrated that his impact on American politics was far from over. Whether Trump will successfully mount another campaign for the presidency or become a kingmaker in the Republican Party, his legacy will continue to shape U.S. politics for years to come. Chapter 8: Legacy and Public Perception. Donald Trump's legacy is one of the most polarizing in American history. His presidency, business ventures, and post-presidency years have had a profound impact on the United States, and his influence continues to shape the country's political landscape. Trump's legacy is defined by his unique leadership style, his approach to governance, and the ways in which his supporters and detractors view his actions and policies. From the moment Trump announced his candidacy for president in 2015, he became a controversial figure. His campaign was filled with bold statements, divisive rhetoric, and a strong focus on populist themes. His slogan, "Make America Great Again," resonated with many Americans, especially those who felt left behind by globalization and the changing economic landscape. For these supporters, Trump was a champion of American workers, a strong leader who prioritized the interests of the United States over foreign influence, and someone willing to challenge the status quo in Washington, D.C. However, Trump's rhetoric and policies also sparked widespread opposition. Critics viewed his presidency as a time of increased division in the country, with his inflammatory language, especially on issues of race, immigration, and gender, being seen as stoking hatred and fear. The 2017 Charlottesville rally, the family separation policy at the US-Mexico border, and Trump's response to the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, led to accusations of racism and bigotry. His refusal to denounce white supremacists during key moments in his presidency only heightened these concerns. Trump supporters saw him as a fighter who stood up to political correctness and mainstream media, often using social media platforms like Twitter to communicate directly with his followers. His detractors, on the other hand, believed that he undermined democratic institutions, spread misinformation, and normalized hate speech. One of the most significant aspects of Trump's legacy is his economic policies. His administration enacted sweeping changes to the U.S. economy, including significant tax cuts for corporations and wealthy individuals. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 was a hallmark of his first term and was designed to stimulate economic growth by lowering the corporate tax rate and reducing income taxes for individuals. Trump argued that these tax cuts would lead to job creation and increased investment in the U.S. economy. The economic impact of these tax cuts remains a subject of debate. Proponents argue that the cuts helped boost the economy and lower unemployment rates before the COVID-19 pandemic struck. They point to the growth of the stock market, historically low unemployment rates, and wage increases as evidence of Trump's economic success. Critics, however, contend that the tax cuts disproportionately benefited the wealthy and increased the national deficit without delivering the promised long-term growth. Trump also focused on trade policies and was a vocal critic of free trade agreements. He sought to renegotiate or withdraw from international agreements like the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, leading to the new United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, and imposed tariffs on countries like China. While Trump's hardline stance on trade earned him praise from some for standing up to China and other economic competitors, it also led to trade wars, which many economists argue hurt American businesses and consumers by increasing costs on goods and services. In the area of immigration, Trump pushed for stricter enforcement, including the construction of a border wall with Mexico, and implemented policies like the Muslim travel ban and the zero-tolerance policy that led to family separations. These policies were seen by his supporters as necessary to protect U.S. interests and reduce illegal immigration, while his critics saw them as cruel, inhumane, and an affront to America's history of being a nation of immigrants. One of the defining features of Trump's presidency and post-presidency has been his use of social media, especially Twitter. Trump used Twitter as a direct way to communicate with his followers, bypassing traditional media outlets, which he often criticized as fake news. His tweets were a constant source of controversy, as they often contained personal attacks on political opponents, media figures, and even members of his own party. His direct communication style helped him build a loyal base of supporters but also led to numerous clashes with political and media elites. Trump's use of social media also contributed to the spread of misinformation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he downplayed the seriousness of the virus, spread false claims about treatments, and repeatedly claimed that the election was stolen from him, despite no credible evidence supporting these allegations. His rhetoric contributed to the rise of conspiracy theories, including the QAnon movement, and set the stage for the January 6 Capitol insurrection, when his supporters attempted to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Perhaps the most defining moment of Trump's post-presidency legacy is the January 6, 2021, Capitol insurrection. On that day, as Congress was in the process of certifying the results of the 2020 presidential election, a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to prevent the certification of Joe Biden's victory. The violence and destruction that followed shocked the nation and led to Trump being impeached for a second time, charged with incitement of insurrection. While the Senate ultimately acquitted Trump, the insurrection and its aftermath further cemented his divisive role in American politics. Many viewed the Capitol riot as a dangerous culmination of Trump's rhetoric about the election being stolen and a direct attack on American democracy. For his supporters, however, Trump remained the victim of a political witch hunt, and the riot was seen as a misguided but legitimate response to what they believed was a fraudulent election. Trump's influence didn't end with his presidency. Despite losing the 2020 election to Joe Biden, Trump continued to be a dominant force in the Republican Party. He maintained a strong following among his supporters, with many viewing him as the true leader of the GOP and a potential candidate for the 2024 presidential election. His endorsement of Republican candidates in the 2022 midterm elections was highly sought after, and he continued to hold rallies and make public statements to reinforce his political relevance. Trump's media presence also persisted, with his Truth Social platform providing him with an outlet to communicate with his supporters and bypass traditional media. His continued influence on U.S. politics and his ability to command attention have made him an ongoing figure in American public life. Trump's legacy is marked by both admiration and criticism. To his supporters, he remains a transformative leader who shook up the political establishment, fought for American interests, and stood up to the elites. His America First approach, economic policies, and strong stance on immigration are seen as positive achievements. To his critics, Trump's presidency represented a period of division, dishonesty, and disrespect for democratic institutions. His rhetoric and actions, including his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, his refusal to accept the results of the 2020 election, and his role in the January 6 insurrection, have left a stain on his legacy. No matter how history ultimately judges him, Donald Trump has had an undeniable impact on American politics, society, and global relations. His influence will continue to shape political discourse in the U.S. for years to come, and his legacy will be the subject of debate and analysis for generations. Whether viewed as a hero or a villain, Trump's place in history is firmly secured. Thanks for watching the video.